Well, getting straight to a CNBC TV 18 exclusive then, Satish Reddy of Dr. Reddy's believes that lack of innovation and capital in India, unlike China, is holding back drug discovery, while Sanjeev Mehta of Hindustan Unilever says that competitors on a level playing field is good for consumers. Here's a snippet of that exclusive conversation with CNBC TV 18's Shereen Bhan at the MIT in Boston.
This aspiration that we've had for so many years of drug discovery in India. Yes, it's capital intensive. Yes, it's long gestation. But you just gave us the China example of how they may in fact break through. What is holding us back? What is the single biggest problem?
So, like I alluded to it, it's mainly the policy intervention, right? So if you see the Chinese government, if you just look at 2-3 things they did, the most important thing being the government funded almost about $3 billion for innovation, right, way back in 2007 sometime. So it provided the capital to start with. So that might be difficult for India to do to a certain extent. But they could start small, right? So that's one thing India can do in terms of at least having a grant, which would help do that. Because not that there's no such grant system, there is BIRAC, all kinds of things. But if you see the conditions attached to it and the quantum, right? So for each project, it's like a 50 lakhs, 1 crore. I mean, it's not going to get you anything, right? So that's one part of it. But the bigger thing, if you ask me, is this whole thing about talent, right? So you also need to, when you need to create that ecosystem, you also need to get the requisite talent for that. They launched something called the 1,000 Talents Program. Okay. Right, so which was basically to attract people.
Can industry not take the lead in that? I mean, I understand the capital constraints, and we're seeing that play out across various segments, whether it's startups or you're talking about drug discovery. But can the talent issue not be addressed by industry? Can you not take the lead to build the bridge with academia?
We do, in the sense that the companies also collaborate with academia to do this. For example, there's a Dr. Reddy's Institute of Life Sciences, you know, which we have floated. It was supposed to be from the government again, but obviously they didn't fund it enough, so we ended up funding it. But then if you see the other institutions, the nature of the research that takes place and what the industry wants, right? So there's a deep level of, there's partly mistrust. There is also not that level of engagement that is required. So it's always the question of, you're saying industry should take the lead. We always keep saying the institutions also should come forward with, you know, something more tangible. You know,
okay, so we need to get over that trust deficit as well. Question that's come in, and I'll put that to you, Sanjeev, because I think it's more relevant to you. Has the Indian government been partisan towards a few companies like Patanjali? and no politically correct answers.
Okay. You know, let me look at it from our lens. First is, India is not a zero-sum game. It's not that if someone wins, we will lose. The second important bit is that I think competitors, if it is on a level playing field, are good for the consumers. I think a good competitor brings out the best in Hindustan Unilever. Yeah.
So what is Patanjali brought out in Hindustan Unilever?
Well, okay. I think a good question. And, you know, to an MIT audience, let me give some facts. Last year, while we are, I think, 4 times bigger than them, grew by 14%, they had a negative growth of 10%. So that's what it did to us.
Satish, a question to you. Perhaps the biggest disruption that the generic business, not just in India, but world over, is faced with is President Trump. We just heard what he had to say in the State of the Union address on dealing with generics and pricing. How are you dealing with that? I mean, do you follow him on Twitter every day to see what he's tweeting about? How's that impacting your business decisions?
No, on the drug pricing part of it, right? So obviously it's going to affect the, what do you call, the multinationals or the big pharma companies in a much bigger way than what it might do to generic companies. But what's going to happen is disruption for sure, right? So which will also affect the generics pricing. But I think at the end of the day, frankly, we see it as an opportunity, because who can compete in that kind of a space? Right, so if you see the volumes, if you see the portfolio of products, if you see, you know, the cost leadership, I think Indian companies are very well poised to take on the challenge. Of course, the margins will be, you know, temporarily take a beating at that point of time, but I think we're quite prepared for it. So if it happens, it happens, I mean.
Okay, if it happens, it happens. Another question that's come in for you, so I'll put that question to you. Satish, what are your thoughts on medical marijuana, and does India have a future in it?
Absolutely. Frankly, on a serious note, it does have a certain role in it because I've also been following it quite closely in terms of the developments in other countries. So if you see the whole criminality attached to any deviation from that, because there was a point of time we seriously, Dr. Reddy's, did consider getting into opioid derivatives at one point of time. But we gave it up because looking at the whole regulations, I mean, no Indian company would take it up, right? So it's that bad. So one is reform of those laws, right? Take it away from the finance ministry to begin with, and to do a whole host of things, and also change the laws around it. That's one part of it. Other thing is also to create this kind of an awareness, because whereas most countries are actively encouraging it, of course they're also encouraging it for other reasons. But if you see from the medical marijuana point of view, I think the need is especially very crucial in India. It needs to be done.
Okay, so that's the word coming in from the pioneers in the FMCG as well as the pharma space.